Hello, I'm Noah, and today I want to do something very special. I'm asking somebody else to share their wisdom with you instead of doing it myself. So today I'm inviting Solange Beaumont to talk with you about codependency. She is a regression and reincarnation therapist from the Netherlands. She's a great friend of mine and was also my girlfriend for 5 years. And during our time together, we had to work through our fair share of codependency. So we know the pain that happens when we're codependent. And I wanted her to come on and share with you to help you to understand the roots of it, to hopefully break free of it, break free of the people pleasing, the unworthiness, the fear, the neediness, and all the unwanted consequences of codependency. So throughout our 5 years together, I referred a lot of clients to her when I wasn't able to help them. And she has a very unique gift in getting to the depth of issues and providing like this soft heart yet like deep safety that is very, very supportive for people. So she is a trauma healer. She heals people from past life trauma, ancestral trauma, inner child trauma, womb trauma, and all sorts of things like this. And I hope you find her talk helpful. So without further ado, here she is.
Hello everyone. I'm super grateful and happy to be here on Noah's channel today. And in this video, I want to share with you a little bit more about codependency. And I want to share where codependency stems from, how it can be created, and also how it can show up later in your life, and how you can heal codependent patterns in your life. So for me, in the work that I'm doing as a holistic trauma healing therapist over the last 8 years, I've been working with many people who struggle with codependent patterns. And codependency stems from early childhood trauma and is a survival mechanism that we created in order to feel safe. Like with every survival or coping mechanism, we created it as a child in order to feel more safe within ourselves. And codependency is one of them. And what it actually means, codependency means like that you experience an extreme need to be or get something from someone else or to give something to someone else, for example, in order to feel safe within yourself. So it's rooted actually in a deep sense of unsafety. That is one of the root causes of codependency is unsafety. So, for example, to just give you some more clarity and create some more awareness about where this codependency stems from. So, if you as a child, you being born and you have two parents or one parent or you have caretakers, and if you sense, which you are incredibly good at as a newborn baby, as a young child, because we are extremely sensitive as children. And as soon as we experience that one of our parents or both of our parents or caretakers cannot be the safety, cannot give us the safety that we need, cannot be there for us, for example, physically or emotionally, and we sense that, we start to feel extremely unsafe. We start to feel safe within our body. Our nervous system starts to be in a really hyper-arousal state. And one of the ways to survive and how the mechanism can be created, because as children we're really smart in creating all these coping mechanisms, all these survival mechanisms. And one of the ways that can show up, for example, is if we feel unsafe, we need to do something in order to feel safe again. Instead of the safety is already there, which is actually our birthright as children, that we already feel safe because we have to receive the safety from our parents. So in order to feel safe, for example, in order to feel loved, in order to feel accepted, in order to feel seen, or in order to feel heard, I start to work really hard for the other person. I start to actually help or maybe support my parents and extremely depend on their love because I feel unsafe, because it's not there naturally, it's not there unconditionally. And the moment I sense that, I can, for example, start to what we call as a, from a human perspective or an adult perspective, we call it people pleasing. So I start to give a lot. I start to give a lot towards my parents in order to hopefully finally feel loved, and to finally feel safe, to finally feel seen. And the more this mechanism will be amplified, the more dependent and codependent I will get, because if they, which are my parents, cannot give it to me naturally and unconditionally, I start to work hard in order to get love. And I start to become find these extreme ways in order to feel seen, in order to feel safe. Because safety is one of our basic needs as children. That is what we need in order to survive. And we will do everything I can. If we feel it's not there naturally, we will start to do everything we can in order to feel safe again. And if I, for example, start to please my mother or my father because I feel that they cannot give me the attention or love or approval that I need, I'm going to take care of them. Which actually means I'm giving my energy away. I'm not in tune with myself anymore. And this created a really deep disconnection from a young age with ourselves, with our body, with our emotions, with our needs, with our desires, with our boundaries. And you can imagine that if you are not in touch with that, because you don't receive this safety, you don't receive this love naturally in the way you need it, in the way you deserve it, that you start to find all these ways, and codependency is one of them, to survive. And that can take on really extreme forms, that we actually completely abandon ourselves. And that we never have the space or feel the space to really discover what is it that I need as a child? What is it that I don't want? What is my desire in this case? What are my boundaries? I don't really receive the space, especially I don't really receive a safe space to discover that, because I have to be so focused, so alert, and so extremely in tune with the other person in order to feel safe, that I have to abandon myself in order to cope with that. And you can imagine if then later on you go through life, you grow up, you become an adult, and you still have this codependent part or parts within you, then you start to relate with others, you start to get friends, you start to go to work where you relate to other people, you start to have relationships with partners. Then this codependent part can show up and can get activated really, really easily, which causes a big imbalance in your relationships, in your connections, because you actually probably, again, abandoning yourself. You will abandon yourself because that codependent part will do everything it can in order to feel safe, in order to feel loved. So that means I'm not listening to myself. I'm immediately with my energy, with my focus, with my attention, with the other person. I give everything away. My energy, maybe practical things I give away, just in order to feel safe, in order to feel loved. And you can imagine that can be quite an exhausting pattern without maybe even knowing it. If you're watching and you're maybe not even aware of that you have codependent patterns, it can be really exhausting because you're like abandoning yourself, you're giving a lot away without even knowing it. And as if we have codependent tendencies or codependent patterns, we also have a hard time receiving because it's so natural or normal for us. It became so normal from an early young age to give away, to leave ourselves in order to feel that love, in order like gain that safety that we were looking for and maybe didn't receive naturally. So if we give a lot away, it's even hard to receive, and receiving becomes almost unfamiliar, which is actually a really sad fact, that receiving becomes really unsafe, because we're so used to, we feel so comfortable and so familiar and so safe with giving a lot, with depending so much on the other person, depending so much on the love of that other person, that it can really take extreme forms, which, like I said, one of the most extreme forms it can take is self-abandonment, abandoning everything in your life, abandoning your needs on all the levels. So what happens if we go on through life and don't heal those codependent parts? We can really lose ourselves. And underneath the codependent patterns, there's most of the time a scared, unsafe, abandoned, rejected little child that finally wants to receive that safety, that wants to receive that love, that wants to receive that acknowledgement in order to feel safe. And the only person who can give that to that little child is you. Because no partner, no friend, no job, no amount of money, no amount of practical things in your life will fill up that hole, will fill up that lack of safety, that lack of love that you didn't receive from your parents or from your caretakers. And the more we continue going through life with this codependent pattern, codependent part within us, the more extreme we will be dependent and feel this urge to have the love from the other person. Because without that, as soon as that person, for example, leaves you, you will feel unsafe. You don't know what to do, because you were so out of touch with yourself, because you gave so much, and then all of a sudden the person is gone, and then what? Then there's this big sense of unsafety again that you experience as a little child. And the way towards healing codependency is really starting to listen and honor and acknowledge the little girl or little boy within you, and starting to discover their needs, starting to discover their boundaries, starting to fill yourself up with the safety, the deep sense of safety, with a deep sense of love and acceptance for who you are, without needing to do anything, without being anyone, just completely for who you are, because that's the desire underneath it. That's the desire underneath the codependent parts within you. They just want to be fully seen, fully loved, fully feel safe, so they don't need to leave themselves all the time in order to feel safe. They don't want to extremely please the other person in order to feel safe. No, what they want is just starting to feel safe and home within themselves. That's a deep desire underneath codependency. So if that other person leaves, if that job leaves, or I leave that job, I still feel safe. And the other thing, the other person, the job becomes a beautiful addition in my life, but it's not this extremely contracted, codependent need that is there. And then we create healthy, secure connections where we don't panic, or we don't contract, or we don't work so hard in order to gain that love. So this is my sharing about codependency and where it can stem from, and how you can bring healing towards those parts within yourself. And if you can relate to this, please let me know in the comments. If it brings up anything for you, please let me know. We will share also my website, the link to my website, below this video. So if you want any support around this topic, please feel free to reach out to me. And if you have any questions as well, you're always welcome to ask. And wish you a beautiful day. Bye-bye.